Right, today we'll be talking about some of the reasons for the Heilige holiday of Shemini Atzeres, because I've noticed a lot of people are never able to define what it is that we're celebrating or what makes Shemini Atzeres so important. So first we have to start off with the Torah. The Torah tells us that we have a holiday called Sukkot, which we're currently in. As you can see, I'm in my Sukkah, which lasts for 7 days, where we're obligated to sit in the Sukkah. Now, the Torah immediately afterwards tells us that there's another holiday, which we call Shemini Atzeres. Shemini literally means 8, and Atzeres literally means kind of like a day where you're not allowed to do work. Now, a lot of people think of this holiday because of the name, Shemini Atzeres. They literally think of it as the 8th day of Sukkot. And the Torah kind of says that a little bit. It kind of gives what we call raglayim ladavar, proof to that. However, that's not really correct, however. It really is its own holiday. Now, the Gemara, the Talmud, does talk about whether Shemini Atzeres really is its own holiday or not, but we do kind of treat it as if it's its own holiday. But it's still very connected to Sukkot. So if we understand it as being its own holiday, what is it that we're celebrating on this day? So very famously, there's a Rashi that discusses it. And Rashi says that after 7 days of being in Jerusalem and in our sukkahs and shaking our lulav and nesrogim, Hashem says, I don't want you guys to leave. I love you guys so much. Just stay for one more day, please. And that is what Shemini Atzeres is. That is what Rashi says Shemini Atzeres is. Shemini Atzeres is us staying that one extra day because Hashem really wants us to be with Him and it's hard for us to leave Him. So you do see from that explanation, it's related to Sukkot, but still it's kind of its own idea to a certain extent. Now, the Heilige Sefer, the Shemi Shmuel, Reb Shmuel Borenstein, the Sukkotcheva Rebbe, he asks 2 amazing questions on this explanation. One is a very simple question. If the whole idea of Shemini Atzeres is so that Hashem will be like, oh, it's so hard for you guys to ditch me after Sukkot, please stay one more day. Well, what does staying one more day do? That's counterintuitive. You're now making it even harder, meaning our connection is even stronger, and now it's going to be even harder for me to get rid of it, like to leave. So at face value, Shemini Atzeres doesn't accomplish anything. And secondly, this is the second question, this isn't the only holiday where we come to Yerushalayim for 7 days. And then, like, for example, we have the holiday of Pesach. Yet by Pesach, we don't find that there's some sort of 8th day holiday right immediately after Pesach because Hashem says, oh, I don't want you guys to leave. So why is this a unique holiday that we find in connection to Sukkot? So the Shemi Shmuel gives us an explanation. And what he says is that in life there are 2 types of transactions. I would say 99.9% fall into type number 1 and 0.1% fall into type number 2. The type number 1 is buyer and seller. I give you money, you give me product, and our connection essentially ends at that. Maybe we're attached to each other while we're making the transaction, but once we've made the transaction, we go on our separate ways, and there's really no attachment, and we don't really think of each other anymore. And the second type of connection is that like of a bride and a groom, in which the groom gives the bride a ring, but that isn't the end-all be-all of itself. It is really about the relationship that's formed as a result of giving the ring that comes after the giving the ring. Meaning that that to death do we part, so to speak. That even if we never see each other again, God forbid, because the husband, let's say he goes to war or something, we are eternally connected and thinking of one another. And we don't have anxiety about each other because we made it such a covenant. That's how, at least a marriage should be. A holy marriage is that when the husband's away and the wife's away, they're totally okay. They're not worried because they have that eternal connection with one another. So the Shemi Shmuel says that on Sukkot, we give 70 bulls, and we spoke about this in an earlier class, and the 70 bulls correspond to the 70 nations of the world. There are 70 root nations, so today there are more than 70 nations, but all those nations can trace themselves back to one of the 70 root nations. And so we give a bull for the well-being, to correspond to the well-being of each nation. And we say, Hashem, I'm giving this bull, like, I don't know if there's a direct correlation, but you say, in honor of this nation, so make sure the people there don't go starving to death, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, contrary to what many podcasters might tell you, we do care about the nations of the world. And Sukkot is the holiday where we express that. And we're also included in this blessing, obviously. So we all get special blessings on this day, all types of people. Hashem on this holiday, Sukkot, he doesn't discriminate. He throws blessings down into the world, but the blessings have to be palatable to everybody. When you're serving more people in general, like food, you don't want to serve more niche type foods. You want foods that are palatable to your average person. That's why you'll see a lot of people when they have catering events, they'll have like pizza if there's like 1,000 people, because they know that most people will eat that. They're not going to have Chilean sea bass, because even though I would love that so much, but 900 people, other 900 people in the room just don't eat fish. So Hashem, on the holiday of Sukkot, he doesn't discriminate. He throws down blessings in the world that's palatable for everyone. However, not everyone is on a high level. And so some people look at these blessings that they receive on Sukkot as they say, oh, thanks God, that's cool. Some people might not even say thanks, but then they just move on as nothing happened. And so what happens is you have also a small amount of people that are way beyond that have a more sophisticated palate. That the pizza, okay, it's nice, it's food, but I would like a Chilean sea bass. And so to speak, in this example that we're giving, there are people who want more than that. They want more than just Hashem to throw them their blessings and then to just depart and say, thank you, Hashem. But on Sukkot, Hashem can't throw blessings down of that caliber because not everybody is willing to accept them. So what does Hashem do? He adds on an extra day for those specific people, for the people who want more than just to say, okay, that was yummy, palatable, bye Hashem. He says, here's an extra day for you special people who want an everlasting relationship with me. That day is Shemini Atzeres. Shemini Atzeres is for those people who want to be, so to speak, married to Hashem and have a connection that is beyond just that time period. It's a rarity. Those people are a rarity. We told you, though, that's 0.1% of the world, which is why during Sukkot, which the blessing is more palatable to all the nations, and it's not so specific, and it's not necessarily maybe as altruistic by the people who receive it, there's 70 bulls offering because it corresponds to 70 nations of the world. But on Shemini Atzeres, there's only one bull offering. And it shows you how rare, right? 1 out of 71, so to speak, because it corresponds to the one nation, to those people who want a connection with Hashem, not just for the sake of receiving, but for the sake of being close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we can go back and answer our original 2 questions, and we can say that now we can understand why staying an extra day does not necessarily make it harder for Hashem for us to depart from Hashem, because we're connecting, we're putting the ring on ourselves, so to speak, on that day. And we are betrothed to him forever at that point. So he's not worried. So what if we're not physically near each other? We are eternally connected to one another. It's a covenant that cannot be broken. It's only done on the 8th day. So once that happens, he's okay letting us be physically away from Jerusalem. And secondly, there is no such need for such a day by the other Yom Tovim, like, for example, by Passover, because Passover is not for the benefit of the nations of the world. So during Passover is just one long Shemini Atzeres, so to speak, where that whole day is for people who want to develop a further relationship with Hashem, who aren't just taking the blessing and going. But by Sukkot, we already said that it's for the rest of the world, so it has to be palatable to them, so Hashem adds on one more day. All right, so now we see the power of Shemini Atzeres. Keep this in mind. It's a very powerful day, and you should be able to answer what we are celebrating on this day.